בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה. ברוכים הבאים. We are back here on our Wednesday night Stump the Rabbi, where after a little bit of divrei Torah, you guys will ask some questions. BeEzrat HaShem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us the answers. Tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Doris bat Jora, David ben Esriel, Orit bat Ilana, Talia bat Sarah, Yitro ben Avraham, Joshua ben Noach, and Alex ben Noach, and also for a Atzlacha Rabbah for Marsha bat Julie, Ayla bat Marsha, Samuel ben Marsha, Cephas ben Marsha, Alexander ben Marsha, Louis ben Marsha, Shaul ben Farzane, Reuven Chaim ben Pala Parel, also for Zivug Agun, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Esria, Yitro ben Avraham, Netanel Yosef ben Avraham, and also for refuah shlema for Shoshana bat Nikula, or Shoshana Nikula. BeEzrat HaShem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give them refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, atzlacha rabba b'chol ma'aseh yadayim. Yes, the mic is good. You guys, can you hear me? I think. One second, checking the mic before I start talking for an hour and a half and nobody can hear me. Okay, good. Okay, so my screen is having some issues, Baruch Hashem. All right. So we have Parashat Shoftim. Parashat Shoftim. And as you can see from the title, or at least part of the title, for those of you that are going to be watching tomorrow or the following days, the Rabbanut versus Reform. What does this have to do with anything? Let's see. The parasha says, Shoftim b'shotrim titen lecha, b'kol sha'arecha, asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha leshvatecha, v'shaftu et ha'am mishpat tzedek. Judges and officers shall you appoint in all of your cities, which HaShem your God gives you for your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. This, in essence, is the Torah commandment that Am Yisrael must have judges. We have to have Batei Din. Now, of course, in those days, we had the Moshe Rabbeinu as the official Sanhedrin, and then later on, we had the Sanhedrin of all of the Anshe Knesset HaGdolah. But since the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, we do not have a Sanhedrin, but nonetheless, the commandment to have a Bet Din is still applicable and still instituted. Not the same, we don't have the ability to have the capital punishment, but nonetheless, there is a Bet Din in virtually every Jewish community that is standing on a solid foundation has a Bet Din. And here we have a Torah commandment that this is something that is critical and not a suggestion, not something that perhaps you could, perhaps you couldn't. This is one of those things where if you don't have a Bet Din in a town, you simply don't have a Jewish community, because without a Bet Din, you're not really going to know what to do. But as we said many times, without having Chachamim in general, and not just the local Chachamim, but having the Gdolei Ador, having the sages of the generation, the Rabbanut, in Eretz Yisrael, the great sages around the world that are accepted and acknowledged by other Chachamim as the Gdolim, and not just by their friends, but rather by the all communities as the Gdolei Ador. These are the wings of Am Yisrael. Now, of course, throughout all of the generations, this is not something that started recently, but throughout all of the generations, the greater the rabbis, the more enemies they had. Starting with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, the Navi of the Nevi'im, the prophet of all prophets, the king. he was not someone that did not have enemies. Anyone that read the Chumash even one time in their life saw how many enemies Moshe Rabbeinu had, starting with the people themselves, the very same people that he helped free them from slavery, ended up calling him an adulterer and a thief, and all types of other horrific names. And of course, the Gemara says that in Masechet Megillah that after Moshe Rabbeinu died, that the people truly understood what gift they had, what zchut they had to have such a person among them. Needless to say, lead them. And from there we learned that it takes the students 40 years to truly understand what the rabbi said. But nonetheless, Moshe Rabbeinu had an endless amount of enemies. Korach, Datan ve'Aviram, obviously went to battle with him and in public. And David HaMelech had countless enemies, including even family members, his own children. You had all types of enemies of Am Yisrael, but as the pasuk says, "Me'arsayich u'me'arvayich b'mechitzeu," that your conquerors, your destroyers will come from within you, meaning that the biggest enemy that the Jewish people have ever had was not the Nazis, was not the Ishmaelim, was not the Christians, but rather was ourselves, was our own people. We have been our own biggest enemy since the beginning. We caused ourselves to lose the Bet HaMikdash twice, and we still do it every single day because of our own people. And not our own people disagreeing on whether you should keep Shabbat based on Rashi on Rabbeinu Tam, but rather based on the ones that wanted to always reform Judaism and change it into whatever fit personal agendas. And the reform movement, as what it's called today and for the last couple of 100 years, may Hashem uproot them from the world, was not something new. We had the Sadducees and the Sadducees. We had all types of reformers throughout all of the generations, the ones that became Mityavnim, that became Greeks. We had all types of different versions of Zionism, the Giborim, and we had all types of false messiahs. We had, of course, the worst of them all, Yoshke, Jesus of Nazareth, Yimach Shemo v'Zichro. We had Shabtai Tzvi. We had countless people that followed Shabtai Tzvi, and in fact, until this day, there are people that are following this false Messiah, even though he himself converted to Islam and became a completely foreign to us, as foreign gets. But he was not finished even after he died. He had Yaakov Frank, Yimach Shemo v'Zichro, was the continuation of Shabtai Tzvi, the false Messiah, which BeEzrat Hashem maybe perhaps will bring a story about him later today. But there's always been enemies of Judaism. We've had them throughout all of the generations, and really the only reason why Judaism exists today is not because of modern day Israel that was established in 1948, but rather because of the original 1948 of Avraham Avinu, where Kadosh Baruch Hu says to Avraham Avinu, Avraham Ohavai, Avraham Ohavai is my lover. Why is he my lover? Because he loves my commandments and he teaches it to his household. Meaning that since the beginning, since Avraham Avinu, the only reason why the Jewish people continued to survive and to outlive their enemies, whether within or out, whether it's the Amalek and the Ishmaelim and the Christian missionaries, or it's the reformers that were born to Jewish mothers in many cases, that are trying to destroy and uproot Judaism, but still keep the title, still keep the brand. And the reality is that the only reason why we continue to outlive all of them, despite them murdering us, both spiritually and physically, is because of those that are lovers of the mitzvot, those that are staying loyal to the mitzvot. And the Torah commands us to have these judges, these officers, these shoftim, these shotrim, that are going to keep us, in essence, at bay, away from our own Yetzirah. Give us a fence around the fence, where even though you have the fence of the Torah that tells you what to do and what not to do, the Torah commands us to also listen to Da'at Torah of the sages, of the Chachamim of the generation, of all the generations, as every generation is going to have leaders that are like the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation, not one and not two, but perhaps many. And nonetheless, we have an obligation to listen to them. Where is that obligation? It's in many places in the Torah, but one of them is in this week's Parashat Shoftim, where it not only starts off with this commandment, but it even goes further. In chapter 17, verse number 9 and on, it says, "You shall come to the Kohanim, to the Levites, and to the judge." Which judge? The very same judge, that Gdolado, that big rabbi, that Dayan, that we talked about in the beginning of the parasha. So you should come to the Kohanim, to the Levites, and to the judge, who will be in those days. Which days? Days of Moshe Rabbeinu? Obviously, if it's in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, it would say today. In those days means forever, until Mashiach comes. It will be in those days, you shall inquire, and they will tell you the words of judgment. Meaning, there's no such thing as I'm going to paskin my own halacha because I think I know better than the Shulchan Aruch. I'm going to paskin my own halacha because I think I'm smart. No. Once the Gdolei Hador say, this is how we psak, we all accept the Shulchan Aruch, that's what Klal Yisrael accepts. If you're Ashkenazi, you have by the custom of the Ramah, and if you're Sfaradi, you're with the psak of Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Bet Yosef. And of course, in order to know how to apply these rules into today, you need poskim of today to show you how to apply the original law into today for things that perhaps did not exist at that time, whether it be electricity or flying from place to place, and how you would deal with the hours and the changes, the whole issue of time zones, and so on and so forth. The point is that you have to have the Gdolim, you have to have the Bet Din that is going to, in essence, rule over the people. And you have to accept their judgments. If there is a altercation between two Jews, whether it be business or otherwise, they have to go to the Bet Din. You're not allowed to go to a civil court unless one of the parties rejects the invitation of the Bet Din, which at that point would put that person on cherem. That person would not be, no one's allowed to do business with them anymore. No one's allowed to count them in minyan. And then you're allowed to take that person to a civil court. You'll have a permission from the Bet Din. But the point is that if you go to a Bet Din, the Bet Din gives a judgment. You have to accept the Bet Din's judgment. Even if you disagree with it and you know that you're right and you feel that you're right, whatever the judgment is, that's what you go by. Why? Because that's what Torah commands us to. It's not a rabbinical enactment, it's a biblical enactment. To follow the rabbis is not a rabbinical enactment like the Christian missionaries say, but rather it's a biblical commandment from where we see today in this week's parasha. So you shall come to the Kohanim, to the Levites, to the judges who will be in those days. You shall inquire and they will tell you the words of judgment. You shall do according to the word that they will tell you from the place that HaShem will choose. And you shall be careful to do accordingly to everything that they will teach you, according to the teaching that they will teach you, and according to the judgment that they will say to you. This is also one of the many sources for the oral Torah. Of course, the oral Torah is not something it's not called oral Torah in the written Torah. There is, for whatever reason or another, people believe that if you don't find the word oral Torah or Torah Shebaal Peh in the written Torah, that means that it didn't exist. It's a very high level of stupidity and ignorance in this generation, nonetheless. But the point is that Torah Shebaal Peh is the term that the sages used because it's called many different things. Sometimes it's simply insinuated. One of the places that it's insinuated as teachings. The teachings of these rabbis, these judges. What are they going to tell you? The teachings of the written Torah? Obviously, you don't need the judges to tell you what the teachings of the written Torah is. You have it in front of you. You need to know how to interpret the teachings of the written Torah, which is the oral Torah. And you have to listen to everything that they tell you, everything that they teach you, it says over here. According to the teachings that they will teach you and according to the judgment that they will say to you. Shall you do? You shall not deviate from the words, that they will tell you right or left. Now, what if somebody doesn't feel like doing it? What if somebody decides to tell the world, listen, I know that the sages said that you have to cry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu practically in every single day of your life, every single prayer that you make. That's technically what you're supposed to do. When we say vidui, as Sfaradim, we say vidui, and many Ashkenazim today that take the Nusach of the Arizal also say vidui every day. We say Chatanu, Avinu, Pashanu. In essence, the reality is you're supposed to cry. I sinned Hashem. That's where it's not just for Slichot and for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to cry. And Tisha B'Av. No, you're supposed to cry every single day in reality. If you look at some of the prayers of the tzaddikim and how they prayed every day, typical mincha on an average Wednesday, they would cry their heart out much more than the best among us will cry on Tisha B'Av. Why? Because that's how you pray. But of course, most people are not going to get to that level, but the reality is we're supposed to cry. We're supposed to follow what everything that Hashem says, and we know that we sometimes fail. As the Torah itself says, tzaddik falls 7 times and gets up. Even someone that's righteous falls 7 times and gets up. Why is he a tzaddik? Because he continues to get up. And he uses that fall as leverage in order to get himself to a higher, so he doesn't fall in the same way every time. Each time it's a new fall, it's a new obstacle. But nonetheless, when the sages tell us what they tell us, we have to follow what they say. And if some superhero decides that he doesn't have, you don't have to listen to the Shulchan Aruch, and you don't have to pray like everybody else, and you don't have to keep like everybody else, and you could just listen to him and he knows better than everybody else. Nobody in the world, 90% of the Jews, they arrogantly say, 90% of the rabbis in the world don't even know what Judaism is. He knows, never even completed the Shas even one time in his life, but he knows better than the Gedolei Ador. He knows better than the most righteous people that ever lived. He knows. Why? Because he likes to ride a motorcycle, or he has a really long beard, and he likes to tell people that God needs you, or he has a lot of friends from the Christian world and the Muslim world, and all of these heretics that are out there in the world. Unfortunately, they continue coming up out of the ground like worms after rain. Or the guy tells you, listen, you can do whatever you want, and paskin the way you want, and this and that. And where did you learn this from? From the zoo that you run in the museum? Where do you know all of this from? You're better than all of the biggest Gedolei Ador? Unfortunately, many people are so arrogant that they don't even know what a Gedolei Ador is, but they still think that they're better than them. And here we have, Torah is commanding us to listen to the rabbis, but not just any rabbi. Of course, you have to listen to rabbis that are Talmidei Chachamim, but even more so when it's talking about the issues of the Gedolei Ador, the leaders of the generation, the heads of the Bet Din. And what happens if somebody says God needs you? Well, that's not in the Masoret, that's not in the Torah. Yeah, but I think God needs you. I think God needs you. What if somebody says you don't have to listen to the Shulchan Aruch? That's just one opinion. You can listen to other opinions. Yeah, but the big rabbi said no. The big rabbi said you have to accept the Shulchan Aruch. Yeah, but I don't think so because I don't think so because I don't think so. So what happens to those people that go against the sages? Torah says at the time of the Sanhedrin, not today because we don't have a Sanhedrin unfortunately, but nonetheless at the time of the Sanhedrin, what would happen to those people? What would happen to a person that would make a rabbinical violation on purpose? A rabbinical violation. A lot of times people say, is this rabbinical, rabbi, or is this a biblical mitzvah? I ask them all the time, why? Well, I don't know. If it's just rabbinical, then no, it's okay. So, do you understand what you're saying even? No. Oh, okay. Do you know what the punishment is for biblical mitzvah? Isn't it death penalty? Not always. Stealing is a biblical violation. Not allowed to steal. Not allowed to steal. If you're a Jew, you steal, you get caught, you have to pay double. You don't get killed. You don't get whipped. You have to pay double. If you don't get caught, but you hand the money back, you admit that you stole, that's it, you're finished. You absolved, you did tshuva. But if you violate any rabbinical enactment, the iruv, death penalty. All rabbinical violations that you make on purpose, death penalty. And this is what it says in the Torah over here. And the man who will act with willingness, not listening to the Kohen who stands there to serve Hashem your God, or to the judge, that man shall die, and you shall destroy the evil from among Israel. Why is such a harsh punishment for a rabbinical violation? Why? Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us. So the entire nation shall listen and fear, and they shall not act willfully anymore. There's a specific reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave power to the rabbis, power to the sages. Why? Without the sages having power, Am Israel will not survive a week. That's just a reality. All of the ups and downs we've had in Judaism throughout the last few thousand years, we always stayed with a few small communities that had strength. Why do they have strength despite the poverty and the famine and the disease and the anti-Semitism and the pogroms and the inquisitions and the Holocaust? Why? Because the rabbis had power. The rabbi said, Paskin, that's what we do. That's what we do, like good little babies. That's what we do. But then you're going to have the superheroes that want to reform. You're going to have the superheroes that want to reform, that want you to marry man and man, like two apes. They want you to marry woman and woman, like two rabbits. They want you to make everything kosher, including the pig and the camel and all the other forbidden animals. They want you to be able to, anybody decide who's converting, who's not, even if you're you don't even look Jewish, you don't act Jewish, and perhaps you're not even Jewish, but you want to decide who's going to convert, who's kosher and who's not. That's what the reformers want to do. Torah says people like that, at the time of the Sanhedrin, will get a death penalty. What about today? What do we do with them today? The Gemara in Masechet Bava Metzia says, don't worry. HaKadosh Baruch Hu already knew at the time he built the Bet HaMikdash, at the time he created the world, that the Bet HaMikdash will be destroyed. Am Yisrael will sin, and he has to destroy the Bet HaMikdash instead of destroying the people. But nonetheless, he already instituted a law ahead of time. The Torah is before the world. This law says, even if there isn't a Sanhedrin that will institute a death penalty, do not worry, the Gemara says. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu will institute death penalty. If you see an ox running over a person, that's the equivalent of stoning. You see a person falling off of a building collapsing somehow in the middle of the night, stoning. Burning in fire, that's the fire. You see a person drowning, that's the strangulation. All four measures of the death penalty that are instituted in the Torah are still applicable even without a bet din. Only difference is, Hashem's the bet din that's going to institute the death penalty. There's the bet din here, but that bet din is limited because we don't have the Sanhedrin. But the bet din, the judgment itself, is never limited. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. And this week's parasha says something unbelievable. Unbelievable, Rabotai. Where it says over here, Rabotai, who's the biggest tzaddik initially? Who's the biggest tzaddik at the time? Obviously, it's the prophets, Moshe Rabbeinu. He's the king. Then it says in this week's parasha, if you guys want an actual king, aside from Moshe Rabbeinu, you want a king later on. This king has to be picked by HaShem. Now, this king is not picked because of how good looking he is, or how smart he is, or how nice his family is, or that his father's a rabbi. He himself has to be a tzaddik, and despite being a tzaddik and a gadol and kodesh kodeshim, he has to have a Sefer Torah with him at all times. Where it says here that he has to write for himself 2 copies of this Torah. 2 copies, 2 scrolls. He has to have 2 Sefer Torah. And it shall be with him. And he shall read from it all of his days of his life. All the days of his life. That he will learn to fear Hashem his God. To observe all of the words of this Torah and its decrees to perform them. Meaning even if he is the king, he has to learn the same shiur about Yirat Shamayim, the shiur about Gehenom, shiur about Tikkun HaBrit, shiur about fearing of the Almighty, just like everybody else on a regular basis. On a regular basis, has to learn about Yirat Shamayim. And even he himself has to be worried not to sin. Why? He has to learn this so his heart does not become arrogant over his brethren and not turn from the commandments right or left, meaning he himself has to comply with the rabbinical enactments. He himself has to comply with all of the Torah commandments. Now, of course, Rabotai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent us prophets throughout the generations, but unfortunately there are also false prophets. False prophets that sometimes had powers, false prophets that even today have power. Perhaps not the mystical powers of the past, but the power of speech, where they can convince people to go against Hashem while convincing them that they're actually doing a mitzvah. These false prophets are still here today, unfortunately. And of course, there are also good prophets, where Kadosh Baruch Hu says, a prophet from your midst, from your brethren like me, Moshe Rabbeinu says, shall Hashem your God establish for you. To him shall you hearken. You always have to listen to the right prophets, not the false prophets. False prophets, what happens to the false prophet? But the prophet who willfully speaks the word in my name, that which I not command him to speak, or who shall speak in the name of the gods of others, that prophet shall die. Again, same parasha, Kadosh Baruch Hu again tells us about how people get death penalty. 3,333 years of death penalties, but yet somehow people want to convince you that Hashem loves everybody and you shouldn't hate anyone. I'm not really understanding how somebody can claim to read the Torah and actually say such a stupid statement. 3,000 years of death penalties in the Torah, instituted, commanded by us. And yet people say you should love everybody even if they hate God. You should love the reformers even though they're destroying the Torah and Am Yisrael already for a few hundred years. You should love them. Why should I love them? Oh, they're Jews. What makes them Jewish? What makes them Jewish? Oh, the Torah says if their mother is Jewish, then they're Jewish. Yeah, but the Torah that says that, they don't believe in that Torah. They don't believe the Torah is divine. They don't believe they have to follow the Torah. But we'll get to that in a moment. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that these false prophets that say God needs you, these false prophets that say that Gehenom is only 12 months for everybody, no matter who you are, even if you're Adolf Hitler, if you're Mechalel Shabbat, if you waste seed, if you committed adultery, if you made all types of crimes, no matter what, maximum punishment is 12 months. The Ramban, one of the Gdolei Olam, one of the greatest sages that ever walked on the face of the earth, says in the Sefer that the person that says that Gehenom is limited to 12 months is 100% an apikoros and has no share of the God of Israel. You can't count them in minyan. You cannot count such a person in the minyan that says that you have Gehenom is maximum 12 months. But can I learn Torah from him, Rabbi, even though he says that there's only 12 months Gehenom? I don't know. Ask the Ramban. Ramban knows better than me. I'm just learning. Ramban says you can't learn from him. In fact, Ramban says you can't even count them in minyan. So you're still asking the same question of whether you should learn from him? But why is God so vicious? Why is that vicious? Why is that vicious? Well, I don't want to go to Gehenom for 12 months. So do tshuva. Don't make sins. Why does it have to be more than 12 months? The Ramban writes, Rabotai Yekarim, and this is actually one of the places that's actually translated to English for anybody that wants to read it. It's called Shara Gmul. It's the writings of the Ramban, Nachmanides. And he says that saying that Hashem has given us a maximum sentence of 12 months of Gehenom turns him into, Chas v'Shalom, an evil God. Why an evil God? Because if you're giving the same sentence to someone that desecrated Hashem's name, desecrated Torah, desecrated Shabbat, and did all of these sins, as you do to somebody that made petty crimes, that's an evil God. And if you give the same sentence to somebody that violated Shabbat one time versus somebody that violated Shabbat 1,000 times, that's an evil God. If you give the same sentence to somebody that murdered one person versus somebody that murdered 1,000 people, the same sentence, that's an evil God. And we don't have an evil God. We have a just God. To say that a maximum sentence is 12 months, the Ramban says, means that the person is an apikoros. Person that believes that is a heretic, 100%. No question about it. And who's going to go against the Ramban? You with your little funny hat? Or your motorcycle? With your long beard? Call yourself a chassid? with your Arab friends and your Christian best friends. Who's going to go against the Ramban? That's what Torah says. And anyone that goes against the rabbis, Torah itself says that people like that get death penalty from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, of course, there's a lot of conspiracy in the world. There's a lot of things happening in the world with this coronavirus, with the vaccine. Some say that the coronavirus is not as bad. Some people say that the vaccine is much worse than the coronavirus. There's a lot of confusion. I've told you 1,000 times already. There are chachamim, gdolei olam, that say to take the vaccine, and there are gdolei olam chachamim that say don't take the vaccine. Whoever listens to the chachamim will have the protection of the Torah, meaning that regardless of which side you take, if you're taking that side, of whether take the vaccine or not take the vaccine, not because you watched a bunch of YouTube videos and read a bunch of articles you don't understand and watched a bunch of people that call themselves experts even though no one's ever heard of them in their life. If that's the reason why you're taking the vaccine or not taking it, then you, my friend, can rely on those people. If you're taking it or not taking it because the Gdolei Adol said to take it or not to take it, you choose whichever side, you'll have the protection of the Torah. Why? Because the Torah is what protects you. The Torah, not the vaccine, and not the flu, and not the opposite. Torah is what protects you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu changes nature for the sake of the Chachamim. Where do we see that in the Torah? This week's parasha. This week's parasha says to us, Rabotai Yekarim, that if there is a person that hates his fellow, if there will be a person that hates his fellow, this is chapter 19, verse 11, and ambushes him and rises up against him and strikes him, and he mortally, and the person dies, and that person runs to the cities of refuge, he killed somebody. But now he wants to run where he knows there's a bunch of Jews over there, some elders, some tzaddikim over there. He wants some refuge. Why? This is a city of refuge where if somebody killed somebody on accidentally, they protect them. But this guy killed them on purpose. He killed them on purpose. But he still wants to go to the city of refuge to get protection. You say, wait, he's a Jew. You should love everybody, right? He's a Jew. He puts on tefillin every day. He keeps Shabbat. He donates a lot of money, but he killed this guy. There was this business competition. He killed this guy that he didn't like him because he's Ashkenazi, or he's Litai, or he's Sfaradi, or he's Hasidish, or he's Chabad. I hate him. I killed him. Oh, so you think he did a mitzvah? Why, you want protection from the Jewish people? He goes to the Beit Din. He wants protection. Torah says, then the elders of the city shall send and take him from there and place him in the hand of the Redeemer of the blood, and he shall die. You're not allowed to protect that person. In fact, you have to put it in the hands of the person that's going to kill him. Why? He's a murderer. He's a murderer. Yeah, but he's a Jew. He's a Jewish murderer. He's a Jewish murderer. There are certain times that the Torah commands us to kill people. Now, of course, today we don't have that ability, but nonetheless, it's still a law that's instituted in the world by the hand of HaShem. Now, what happened to those people that want to do bad? They want to create a virus that's going to kill people. They want to create a vaccine that's going to kill people. They want to do all types of things that are going to kill people. Conspiracy theory, conspiracy itself, New World Order, all types of things scaring people. Let me tell you something. Torah answers that too. Where does it answer it? Right after this section. Where the Torah says in chapter 19, verse 15 and on, a single witness shall not stand up against any man for any iniquity or for any error regarding any sin that he may commit, by the testimony of 2 witnesses or by the testimony of 3 witnesses shall a matter be confirmed. If a false witness stands against a man to speak up against him, spuriously against him, then the 2 men and those who have the grievance shall stand before HaShem, before the Kohanim and the judges who will be in those days. The judges shall inquire thoroughly, and behold, the testimony was false testimony, he testified falsely against his fellow, you shall do to him as he conspired to do to his fellow, and you shall destroy the evil from your midst. Now, what does this all mean? In the Jewish world, there's no such thing as taking the testimony of only a single witness. Everything, before there's any death penalty, before any judgment, you have to have 2 witnesses or more. 2 witnesses, 3 witnesses. That's it. One witness comes, says, I saw it, I was there, he murdered, he raped, he did this. We can't believe him. The guy that was with the wife. The guy is married and his wife cheated on him. Now the guy himself that went with the wife comes and says to the Bet Din, I was with the wife. We don't believe him. We don't have to believe him. Even if the wife by herself comes, we don't have to believe her. It's one witness. We don't have to believe him. Here we says over here, now what if it's death penalty? He says, oh, he killed him. He killed him. If it's one witness, we don't take his testimony. 2 witnesses say he killed him, we saw him, death penalty. Now what about if the Torah says, what about if 2 people said, yeah, we saw him, he killed him, and right before they gave him a death penalty, 2 new witnesses come. 2 new witnesses come and say, hey, hold on a second, you're about to kill this guy, he's innocent. Yeah, but we have 2 witnesses that said that he killed him. Yeah, they're liars. What? Liars? They're Jewish. They keep Shabbat, put on tefillin, they give tzedakah. Yeah, they're liars too. They're liars, they give tzedakah. How are they liars? How can you prove they're liars? We prove they're liars. Why? Look at my phone, picture, date. They were with us at the time of the murder. Meaning, there was no way for them to witness the murder. The Bet Din reviews this. The Bet Din reviews this and says, yeah, these are false witnesses. And now, Rabotai, the death penalty goes on them, those false witnesses. This in itself is, for somebody that does not understand, is a wonder of wonders. Why? Why is it a wonder of wonders? Because here HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that there are times that he will get himself involved with free will. There are specific times that he'll get himself involved with free will, where logic, Chachamim tell us, logic would dictate that if 2 witnesses come and tell you different what the existing witnesses said to you, what would everybody say? No, if this was the righteous judgment, HaShem would have sent you first. He sent 2 other people who told us that the truth. So why should we automatically believe the new witnesses? Why should we automatically believe the new witnesses? Not only believe the new witnesses, but actually give the punishment to the original witnesses. They automatically become the false witnesses. Meaning, if there's originally 2 witnesses that say that the person is guilty, and now 2 new witnesses come, after there's already been, that's it, it's judged already. We have all proofs, statements, everything. 2 new witnesses come and say, no, they're liars. They were with us. They couldn't have been at the place to witness it. There's no way that the guy, that they're saying the truth. Automatically, the Bet Din believes the new witnesses. Automatically. The Bet Din believes the new witnesses. Why? Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I am the one. I am the one that runs the world. If I wanted the person to die, it's not going to be because people told on him, or because he took a vaccine, or because he got the virus, or because he lived at a certain place at a certain time. If I want him to die, it's in my hands alone. No one can kill you unless I say so. So even if somebody tries to say, you should do this, you should take this, I'm going to send somebody else. And even more so, I'm going to have a law in the Torah and a law in nature that the second witness always have to be believed. Always have to be believed. Meaning, The second witness is it's in essence the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Second set of witnesses is a hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu in essence telling us outright in the Torah, there is no death or suffering that's away from my reach. It's always my hand pulling the trigger. Always my hand. There is no such thing as a mass conspiracy to kill everybody. A mass conspiracy to make everybody not able to have children. A mass conspiracy to make everybody slaves in a new world order. No such thing. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to live, nobody in the world, including the whole world, can change that. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants a person to die, no power in the world can stop it, including the entire world. This is why it baffles me of how rabbis are getting involved in the conspiracy of all this craziness. We have to have a community meeting. We have to have an event. We have to do what we can as our ishtadlut to go fight against the power that be that are going to force everyone to take the vaccine. Are you insane? Are you out of your mind? Are you trying to cause trouble? Be quiet. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, Ribono Shel Olam. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to protect us, he'll protect us. If he doesn't, he won't. What you can do that's useful is perhaps encourage the community to do tshuva. And then you'll give HaKadosh Baruch Hu a reason to protect us, no matter what the criminals want to do, whether they want to give a new virus or a new vaccine, or a combination of both. It'll make a difference. This, Rabotai, is how Am Yisrael has survived for all of these thousands of years. But somehow people have forgotten the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that runs the world. Now, when we have the leaders of Am Yisrael, we see that the leaders of Am Yisrael are not involved in this conspiracy mumbo-jumbo. Why? Because the leaders of Am Yisrael are too busy fighting for Am Yisrael. You look at the article that came out, the biggest and most extraordinary united event happened in Eretz Yisrael. All of the greatest rabbis got together. Both Rishon LeZion, Rav Lau, Rav Yitzchak Yosef, the Ashkenazi Rabbanim, the Sephardi Rabbanim, the Gaon Rabbi Yehuda Deri, the Rabbi Yosef Efrati, the Rav Shmuel Eliyahu, literally, Geonei Olam, from all parts of the Haredi world got together. What, you think they're fighting about coronavirus? You think they're arguing about the vaccine? Absolutely not. What are they crying about? What are they all gathering about? Hundreds of Geonim. I don't know if there's been a meeting like this in decades. Hundreds of them screaming and yelling, not at each other, for each other, uniting with each other. Why? Fighting against the new reform that's happening in the world, especially in Eretz Yisrael, where the government, Imach Shimam V'Zichram, the Zionist government that's spearheaded by haters of the Torah, haters of Judaism, that can even have the audacity to call themselves Jews, one of them with a little penny kippah on his head, pretends to be religious. These Reshayim Arurim are trying to create a major reform. Cancel the kashrut, the Rabbanut kashrut in Eretz Yisrael. Say no, where the government will handle the kashrut. Do you know how to determine if something is tarif? You know how to check the lungs. You know how to check if something is kosher or not. Do you even know which animals are kosher? Because you eat pig in your house. Do you even know how? How are you going to know? No, we're going to have experts. We're going to have scientists. We're going to have professors. Oversee the kashrut. Oversee the gerut. Oversee the conversions. Wait, so you're going to tell me that two non-religious people are going to determine if somebody's religious enough to be Jewish? It's the most absurd thing in the world. It's like the person that's a high school dropout is going to be, and is actually, in fact, the head of the educational department in Eretz Yisrael. It's the most bizarre thing. You can't even make this stuff up. And now they want to change the kashrut. They want to convert everyone. They want to marry everyone. You want to marry a sofa, go marry a sofa. You want to marry man and man, marry man and man. You want to marry a woman with woman, marry woman with woman. Jews, non-Jews, don't make a difference. But they want to put the kosher stamp on it. They don't just want to do it like the Goyim do it. They want to put Judaism on it. They want to give a section of the Kotel to the reformers. They want to give powers to the anti-Torah. But you think that's only in Eretz Yisrael? Just today I got an article from a dear friend who says President Joe Biden appointed a progressive rabbi, Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum, to the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, raising protests from American Jews. Why would having a rabbi next to the president of the U.S. be a bad thing? Because this Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum is a homosexual woman who is famous for hating Israel and mourning over Hamas terrorists. This Reshait Arura, this wicked, disgusting excuse of a human being, Sharon Kleinbaum, is a woman that pretends to be a rabbi who preaches against Israel on a regular basis, even despite the fact that her own congregants already have had it. Somehow she still has a job. She celebrates the LGBTQ Sodom and Gomorrah because she's part of it. She herself is married to a woman. I wouldn't be surprised if she's married to a few dogs too. And she mourns over the Hamas terrorists that bombed the Jews, that killed the Jewish people. And she dares to call herself a rabbi, leading a congregation, and supports Omar Shakiri Machshima Vezichra, Linda Sarsour Machshima Vezichra, Tamika Malou, all these anti-Israel people, all these famous anti-Semites in Congress. Ilan Omar Machshima Vezichra, she supports them. But yet, she calls herself a Jewish rabbi. She calls herself a Jewish rabbi. She's anti-Torah. She's openly homosexual. She helps build the homosexuality in the world by herself practicing it publicly and speaking for them and promoting them and so on. On top of it, she's not only anti-Torah, she's anti the Jewish people, even if they're secular, if they live in Eretz Yisrael, or they even love Jews. But yet, she dares to call herself a rabbi. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. And yet, the Israeli government wants her people to be responsible of the conversions in Israel, to be responsible of the kashrut in Israel, to be responsible of the religion in Israel. They want her, this Allah, this Zonah, they want her to be the head of the rabbinical world, of the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael. They want people like her to be the Rishon LeZion. That's what the Gdolei Hador are fighting. They're not fighting about or crying over this vaccine or the coronavirus. Why? They already know it's the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The question is, when are we going to know? When is Klal Yisrael going to stop wasting their time watching these stupid videos where every other day there's a new expert no one's ever heard of who discovered the conspiracy or discovered the cure or discovered something else? I don't discovered America all over again. No one ever heard of this person in the world, but he's somehow a worldwide expert and he knows better than everybody else. Or suddenly the politician that loves the people but is not lining his pocket. The honest politician. I mean, when are people going to stop wasting their time? Or the best yet, the people that are simply every other day coming up with new letters. The heads of Am Yisrael are against the vaccine. And today I got the heads of the Sephardic Jewry are against the vaccine. They show you a piece of paper. Now, Baruch Hashem, this young student, he didn't know how to read Hebrew, so he sent it to me. He said, Rabbi, what do you think of this? I said, well, I don't know, the title is wrong. Well, why is the title wrong? It says the head of the Sephardic Jewry are against the vaccine. All of the people that signed this letter, not a single one of them has a Sephardic bone in it. I don't even know if these people eat jachnun. I don't know if these people know what are even allowed to eat harif. They're all Ashkenazi. What's Sephardi? They're relying on the ignorance of people. All of these people spreading these letters and these stupid videos about the conspiracy or about to take the vaccine. Both sides are ridiculous. They're not realizing that the most damaging part of this plague we've had in the world over the last year has been the fake news, has been the fact that people have become so obsessed with following one side or the other, or both sides, they're simply crazy, that they've become fanatic. They don't even learn Torah anymore. They barely even go to shul. They barely learn anything. They barely practice anything. All they can talk about is the vaccine, the conspiracy, the New World Order, and simply forget that it's all the hand of HaShem. These videos have consumed so much of people's brain, so much of people's time, so much of people's life. These newsletters, these magazines, these fake WhatsApp posts and letters, all of these things have consumed so much time. They're much worse than everybody, the whole world getting the virus. It was actually better off for the whole world to simply get the virus than for this to happen, all of this media that's happening. But every day, everybody is sharing with the world. Oh, we have an expert. He's an Orthodox Jew and he says it's poison. Oh, we have another expert. He's not even Jewish, but he's saying, you Jewish people, you are making a mistake. You should be listening to Moses. How he connects it, nobody knows, but he's a non-Jew. We should listen to him because he seems nice and he seems like he likes Jewish people. Like, literally, the level of stupidity in society today, especially our own communities, has risen to new all-time highs. Why? Less Torah, more foolishness, more idolatry. They've turned coronavirus into a form of idolatry. When they originally said, oh, you know, corona, the name, I think in Spanish or Greek or some other language, I don't know, it really is a crown, so this is really from God. No, it's not that. That's not the symbolic part, that the corona is a crown, so therefore it's from God. That we already knew. The fact that it's a crown is because the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, don't turn this into a new crown. Don't turn this into a new king. Don't turn this into a new idol, you chamor, you idiots. Stop watching videos. Watch Torah, do tshuva, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu, He's the one that gives you the salvation. He's the one that wins the war. Where can I learn that, Rabbi? You can also learn it from this week's parasha. Also, Parashat Shoftina tells you to listen to the rabbis, listen to the sages. Tells you that when you listen to the sages, you're going to win. You're going to win each and every time. Why? Because chapter 20, verse number 4 says, Ki Adonai Elohechem ha'olech imachem lilachem lachem, im oivechem leoshia otchem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to us, for HaShem your God is the one who goes with you to fight for you with your enemies to save you. He fights with you and your enemies to save you. Who do you think is going to save you? Some doctor nobody heard of? Some scientist that makes YouTube videos? Who's going to save you other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Hashem, give him a reason. Give him a reason, Ribono Shel Olam. Stop electing homosexuals to be your leaders. Stop electing people that are against the Torah to be your leaders. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you the salvation. That's why we pray every single day, Rabotai Karim, in our Amidah. In our Amidah. Ashiva Shoftenu Karishona. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, restore our judges, as in the beginning, as in the time that you were the judge, as we had the Chachmei Israel, the judges. Bring us to those days. What do you mean bring us to those days? HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do it tomorrow. Why are we praying for it? HaKadosh Baruch Hu open our hearts so we see the truth and we accept Da'at Torah for what it is and stop trying to reform Judaism every other day. Please help us do tshuva. That's what we pray for every day. We pray to Hashem to help us do tshuva. Why? Because we're simply incapable. Incapable of doing it without His help. But the ones that stick to HaKadosh Baruch Hu will always win. Whether they take the vaccine or they don't take the vaccine. They already won because they listen to Da'at Torah. And those that listen to Da'at Torah, Rabotai, can escape the biggest tests. The biggest tests. 260 years ago, there was a Mashiach Sheker named Yaakov Frank. Shem Rashayim Yirkav. He said he was the continuation of Shabtai Tzvi, and he wasn't like the morons of today that make YouTube videos telling people that they're Mashiach. He was actually able to use all types of impure forces in order to make magic, which the Torah in this week's parasha forbids. It's a death penalty. But nonetheless, people didn't know that he's using the powers of Tumah to make magic. But he wanted Am Yisrael to follow him. He didn't want just the Christians to follow him. He didn't want just the Arabs to follow him. He didn't want just the Gentiles to follow him. He wanted Am Yisrael to follow him. And that's when he got people to follow him. He showed them all types of powers, all types of miracles. Now, Rabotai, one of the eyewitnesses of this whole story is the one that wrote the story, the one that is part of the story. One of the Geonim of 260 years ago, one of the heads of the Sanhedrin at that time, heads of the Rabbanut at that time, the Gaon Rabbi Yitzchak Shor writes himself, and this is quoted in Rav Ephraim's Doresh Tov, Parashat Re'eh, and he writes the story of what happened, where this Yaakov Frank goes to the powerful priests and says to them, the Jewish people are not following me. I want you to force the rabbis to debate me. Debate. That's all the kufrim like to debate. Why? I could fool them. I could manipulate them. I could do a lot of things with debate. Why don't you just write a letter? Nah, letters, they can think. They're not motivated. They're not, intimidated. No. Debate. Live debate. He wants a live debate in front of the Komer, in front of the priests. And whoever wins, that's who the priest will decree as the leader of the Jewish people. Of course, once the priests decree, there's nothing that the Jewish people can do about it. Why? Because they have also a powerful people that they could kill and cause harm to the Jewish people. So, this Yaakov Frank causes the head rabbis, the BeDin, which is headed by Rabbi Yitzchak Shor, to come to the debate. And they have all types of questions back and forth, and each time this Yaakov Frank brings a issue, Rabbi Yitzchak Shor proves him wrong. But then he says to them, yeah, but come on, don't you understand that I can make miracles? I can make miracles. Rabbi Yitzchak Shor says to him, our Torah tells us we don't follow somebody because they can make miracles. We don't follow people because they can make miracles. We don't follow people because they're good speakers. We don't follow people because they are scientists. We don't follow people because they ride a motorcycle. We follow people because they have Da'at Torah. And if you don't have Da'at Torah, if we had the power, we would kill you. So, of course, Yaakov Frank has something prepared. The Reshaim are always prepared for something to fool everyone, all the naive, all the weaklings. He says, don't you understand that I can make miracles and I can even bring your two dead parents right over here in front of us? And they're going to tell you that I am right. They're going to tell you I'm the continuation of the real Mashiach of Shabtai Tzvi. course, the Gaon Rabbi Yitzchak Shor says to him, bring him! And suddenly, as he says it, two images come into the place. All of the people, ooh, ah, ee, ah, all the And they see two people coming in, wearing these hoodies. And they take off the hoodies and they see these are, who? The parents of the tzaddik Rabbi Yitzchak Shor. His parents, they died years before. But they're here. And they're crying. They're saying, our dear son, yes, you have to listen to him. You have to listen to Yaakov Frank. He is the Mashiach. He is the truth. Look, he brought us to tell you. He brought us back from heaven to tell you. The Torah starts all over with him. Now, if you saw this, what would you do? I tell you what most people would do. I don't know what you would do. Most people, they start singing, Mashiach, Mashiach, Mashiach. Yeah. They fall into it. Yalla, let's go ask the Mashiach. He brought back the dead. Chachamim, do not act like idiots that fall for traps, even if the traps are convincing. Rabbi Yitzchak Shor, alav shalom, was Kodesh Kodashim, and he simply gave them the only answer that he can give them, the only answer that's needed. And he says to the two people that are saying they're his parents, they look exactly like his parents, and there are hundreds and hundreds of people witnessing this. And he says to them, Yaakov Frank says the Torah ends and starts with him. He's changing the Torah. You agree with him. So that means I don't have to honor you as my parents anymore. And if I don't have to honor my parents anymore, nothing will stop me from doing this. He takes his staff, tlach, tlach, on both of their heads. And all of a sudden, in front of hundreds of people, both of these people suddenly disappear inside their clothes. Everybody is astonished. They pick up the clothes and they remove them and they see, what's under this? Two dead dogs. And even the priest, the idol worshiper, recognized at that moment that Yaakov Frank was a liar that was using witchcraft. Using witchcraft. He's no Mashiach, he's no nothing. He's a liar. And that, Rabotai, was a story not from thousands of years ago. It's a story that happened just 260 years ago, in the year Taf Kuf Yud Tet. Exactly 261, almost 262 years ago. Now, these types of stories are part of Klal Israel. Meaning that the tests are not just difficult because of some YouTube phenomenon, or some doctors that no one ever heard of, or some scientists, or some politicians, or some new world order of some kind. These types of tests have always been. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, it's me that's sending it to them. It's me that's sending it to you, and it's me that can heal it. Only if you listen to me. And listening to me means you have to listen to the Gdolei Ador. You have to listen to the giants among the giants. The giants. That's what's going to protect you. Why? When you listen to the reformers, all you're going to do is simply lose. All you're going to do is simply lose. It's simply a disaster. A disaster that has cost us millions of lives. Millions of lives. People believed the Jewish agency at the time of the Holocaust were the saviors of the Jewish people, led by the first president of Israel, Weizmann, Yimach Shimo v'Zichro, Rasha Merusha. They thought that people like Dr. Kastner were the saviors of Hungary Jewry. Saviors, the Jewish agency. Why? They're Jews, they're collecting tons and tons of money. They love the Jewish people. Only later on does Am Yisrael find, through a lawsuit by a simple Orthodox Jew that's in the records today, there are books written about it, exposes the liars, that in reality it's the leaders, it's Ben Gurion, it's Weizmann, it's Sharet, it's all of these Reshaim from the Jewish agency, these Zionists. They actually killed the last million Jews of the Holocaust. They had an opportunity to free all of them. They had an opportunity. Eichmann, the Nazi, Yimach Shemo v'zichro, was willing to free 1 million Jews just to give them some trucks, coffee, and tea. That's it. They sabotaged the one guy that was looking to help them, just to make the deal. A guy that was working with them who thought that they were his heroes. A guy named Joel Brand. Famous story. They sabotaged him just to make sure that these 1 million Jews die in the Holocaust by the Nazis. And what happens? They become the president, the first president of Israel. Yimach Shemo v'zichro, Weizmann. Dr. Kastner, Yimach Shemo v'zichro. Ben Gurion, Yimach Shemo v'zichro. All of these people that manipulated the Torah in order to get the world to feel bad for them. But they're no different than the reformers of today, Rabotai Karim. No different. They take the Torah and use it like putty whenever it suits them. You have to stay away from those people, even if they call themselves religious, even if they call themselves orthodox, even if they call themselves Nevi'im, prophets. If they're going against the Torah, which is simple to know. Why? How do you know if they're going against the Torah if you're not a scholar? If Gdolei Ador, if the giants of the generation say, no, they're going against the Torah, by default, we listen to the Gdolei Ador and not to anybody else. Nobody else overrules the giants of the generation. Not the president of the country, not the head of the Jewish agency, Yimach Shemo v'zichram, not the Christians, not the reformers, not anybody. Why? The sages, there are wings. Without them, we crush and crumble, and we do not survive. When we listen to them, we will outlive all of our enemies. Why? Because through the mitzvah of listening to them, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I will come and fight your enemies for you. I will come. Your enemies want to conspire against you. I'll send new witnesses. I'll manipulate free will if I have to, just to protect you. Why? You listen to my kids. You will always be protected because of it. This is why, Rabotai Karim, I tell people, you want to take, you don't want to take, it doesn't make a difference. What you should work on is your emunat chachamim. Your emunat chachamim, your emunah in HaShem, your bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ashgacha pratit, divine providence. That's what's going to protect you from all of the nightmares that are happening in the world. Why? Because the enemy is coming in every corner. They're coming with a kippah, without a kippah. Male rabbi, female rabbi. Jewish, Gentile. Christian missionary, Messianic Jew, which is the same thing. They're coming in all forms and sizes. They're coming in America, in Israel, in England. They're coming as the head rabbi of England, Yimach Shemo Mervis. Rasha Merusha, who's one of the biggest Christian missionaries in the missionary world, pretends to be a Jew. They're coming in all forms of sizes. How do we know who to follow? Gdolei Ador. Why? Torah says so. Torah said, you follow my Gdolim. You don't go right or left without them. You'll have my protection. I will fight the war for you. But if you don't listen, you're on your own. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Why? Why put ourselves in the hands of the enemy? Why make ourselves so vulnerable? Stop watching these videos. Stop sharing these links and these posters of this group of this and this group of that. Stop it. You're destroying neshamot. It's literally the equivalent of pornography. This coronavirus, a conspiracy theory, virus, vaccine, literally has now become the equivalent of idolatry and pornography combined. Idolatry and pornography combined. People are so enamored by it, so confused by it, they forgot Hashem runs the world. They forgot. Enough. Chalas already. We have Chachamim. Chachamim. What do they say? They say right, we go right. They say left, we go left. Yeah, what if I have both? What if I have some Chachamim say right? I have some Chachamim say left? Perfect. Pick whatever one you want. Pick whatever you want. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it easy for you. Pick whatever you want. But pick it because the Chacham said it. Not because you watch YouTube videos. Not because you watch YouTube videos. If you do it that way, you'll have the protection of the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will fight for you. Chalas already with all of these reform opinions. Enough. We have to listen to the Chachamim. We listen to the Chachamim. We already won. We already won. Why? We have a mitzvah in our hands. A mitzvah in our hands that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised us. He will protect us because of this mitzvah. Or protect us with that mitzvah. Who's going to protect you for watching YouTube videos of some doctors? Who's going to protect you of wasting an hour and a half of your time of somebody mocking the Israeli or the U.S. government for their choices of vaccine, whether it's Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson? Who's gonna protect you because you are listening to all the conspiracy theories of the Kennedy family and the New World Order and the Freemasons and the Bilderbergers and the hamburgers? Who's gonna protect you because of that? Who? Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to protect you if you listen to His Torah. Listen to His Torah, listen to His Chachamim, you have nothing to worry about. You don't listen, you have everything to worry about. Your choice. Your choice. The price is not the same though. With that being said, I'm going to have a little bit of a drink, and then you guys can ask some questions. I made a blessing before. I'm going to ask the first question. How does the rabbi know who's not watching his lectures? Oh, does the rabbi have Ruach HaKodesh? Okay, so the rabbi is going to answer. No, the rabbi doesn't have Ruach HaKodesh, but he knows who's not watching his lectures. You know how he knows somebody's not watching his lectures? When they call him or text him during the lectures. That's the best. Or they ask questions that were answered in the lectures. That's the best part. They ask questions that were answered in the lecture. But they say, yeah, Rabbi, I watch all your lectures. That's how the rabbi knows you're a liar. So, question number 2. Somebody else, not the rabbi this time. Chaim is asking, does the weekly parasha also apply to Gentiles? How is it relevant to them? Well, I think that this week, today's shiur proves it. Today's shiur proves it that it's relevant to all of mankind. If a person studies the weekly parasha deep enough, he can find all types of secrets, not just relevant to the Jews, but to the Gentiles and to the world and to their life, to that day, to that week, and to their entire life even, depending on how much they study it. Of course, the Jews going to have a lot more siyata d'ishmaya and because they have a bigger obligation to learn it. But nonetheless, the Torah is for all of mankind. This is the reason why in the book of Deuteronomy it says that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the Torah in 70 languages. Why would Hashem have Moshe Rabbeinu write the Torah in 70 languages on huge rocks that are somewhere in the world today? Why would Hashem do that? Because at one point, the whole world will discover the Torah. The whole world will discover the Torah. There's only one version of the Torah, and they'll be able to read it in whatever language they're in. Whatever language they're in, they'll be able to read it. Brian is asking, When Hashem raises the dead, will we have the same disabilities or blemishes we had when we were alive before? No, the prophet Jeremiah says that the miracles that happened in Egypt are going to happen at that time of the Exodus will happen again. One of the things that happened after Egypt is we went to Mount Sinai. And at Mount Sinai, the Torah tells us that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought his Shekhinah to the world, and the sages explain that the Shekhinah cannot come to a place of imperfection. And because so many people were deformed, people were missing arms, legs, broken backs, paraplegic, missing eyes, all types of difficulties that they had from their slavery for so many years. So because the Shekhinah cannot come to a place of imperfection, HaKadosh Baruch Hu simply made a miracle and everybody became perfect. The guy that was missing an arm, the arm grew as if he was a starfish. The guy that was blind was able to see. The guy that was deaf was able to hear. The woman that was not able to give birth was now able to give birth, no problem. And so on and so forth. Everyone became perfect. And in essence, the same thing and even more is going to happen when HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings the Mashiach, and even later on when HaKadosh Baruch Hu resurrects the dead. So yes, the imperfections and disabilities will not only cease to exist for those people, but for anybody. And the world will reach a certain level that is beyond what we call natural. Certain things of the natural will continue, as the Rambam says, the operation of the world will continue, but there's going to be certain parts of it that will be what we consider today supernatural, that will become the new natural. One of them is that there will not be any disease and death and so on. Avraham is asking, if someone does kiruv for an hour, door to door, but only post one door, will he be rewarded for the 20 seconds he put the movie ticket on the door, or the whole hour? I'm not really understanding. If he is going door to door with flyers, but he only puts a poster on one door, what is he doing for the rest of the time? Just coming, looking at the house, and then leaving? Oh, I have a poster. You're not going to get it. And he leaves? Like, what does he do for the whole hour? I'm really understanding the question. If you're saying he's going door to door, knocking on the doors like Lehavdi, like the Christian missionaries. Have you heard about Jesus, like they do? You know, so the opposite you would say, have you heard about the Torah? Let me tell you about Moshe Rabbeinu. And you start teaching them Gemara or something? Oh, yeah, of course. Even if they don't answer the door. That's Mesirut Nefesh. But if you're just going door to door doing nothing, you just put one flyer on one door, that doesn't make any sense. Now, if you're saying, if I misunderstood your question, in essence, you're saying that you went door to door, but the only thing you did is just put a flyer there. So really, an hour worth of work, an hour worth of walking door to door was really in reality only had a total of 20 seconds of actual putting the flyers on the door. Will he get rewarded for the whole hour? Then yes, of course, you get rewarded for the whole hour, because you wouldn't be able to get to that 20 seconds if it wasn't for that whole hour of walking and going. But of course, a person needs to be smart with their kiruv, just like they're smart with their business, and make sure that they use their time effectively and not waste it. If you live, let's say, in one of these communities that every neighbor is 25 minutes away from the next neighbor, it's not an ideal place to give out flyers. You should go to a place that's more city-like, more place that there's more houses, and give where you don't have to spend so much time doing nothing, in essence, that's productive. So try to do that. But that's it. But you get rewarded for the whole time. But you still want to get fruits from your labor. So even though you'll get rewarded for a whole hour of actual effort, if the whole hour only managed to give one card because you walked an hour to go to one house, then yeah, you get rewarded for an hour of kiruv, but your chances of success of that kiruv yielding fruit are very, very small because you only gave out one card. Okay, whereas if you give out in an hour you give out, 200 cards or 50 cards or whatever the amount is, but a lot more, then obviously the numbers change drastically. The fruits from your labor are going to be much bigger. Not just the reward that you're getting for that hour, but also the reward that you're going to get from the fruits of that hour. So there's two parts of the reward. There's the reward for the effort, the mesirut nefesh, for doing kiruv, and the reward for the actual fruits that kiruv will yield. So surely, if let's say you have two people, speaking, you have me speaking on one hand, and you have somebody else speaking on one hand. And we're both trying our best. We're both saying the truth. But Hashem has mercy on me, and He allows me to succeed. And I get the person to do tshuva, whereas the other person perhaps is not successful today. Okay? Now, of course, we're both going to get a reward for trying to help somebody do tshuva. Sure. But my reward will be drastically bigger because now I actually have results. That person did tshuva. Now he's going to do mitzvot. He's going to keep Shabbat. He's going to protect his BEIT. He's going to marry a righteous woman. He's going to have righteous kids. They're going to keep mitzvot. They're going to go to YESHIVA. They're going to learn Torah. They're going to become, scholars perhaps. They're going to become religious. So surely I'm going to get a much greater reward because the fruits of my labor ended up yielding a lot more results than the fruits of his labor. He gets rewarded, but obviously he doesn't have the same fruits. We both have a tree, but I have fruits. So that's the same concept here. That's why you want to make sure that whatever kiruv you're doing, you're going in the best way. And this is also the reason why sometimes when people ask me, listen, I have a cousin, I have a brother, I have a sister, I have somebody that is not religious. What do you think I should do? And I immediately give everybody the same exact response. Send them this lecture. Most of the time, it's the lecture of my personal story. Sometimes it's different lectures depending on the circumstance. And I always tell them, send them to this lecture. And of course, at least 50% of the time, people tell me, no, I think it's going to be too hard for them. I already know they're not going to watch it. Do you have anything else? And my response is, yes. And I send them another lecture. Or I say, no, this is the only thing I have. Please send it to them. Send them this lecture. I had somebody the other day say, Rabbi, Can you say, can you give me some advice? I sent him a link to a lecture. Oh, no, I think this is too hard. I think this is going to depress me if I listen to it. Do you have maybe something a little bit, something you could just tell me, something a little shorter, a little quicker? So I sent him a different lecture that's 15 minutes shorter. Thanks, Rabbi. Why? That's the answer. Stop telling me how to do my job. You don't go to a surgery center and tell the surgeon how to perform a surgery. Just listen to what I say and that's it, finished. But unfortunately, sometimes people think that they're smarter, even though they've never made a single person do tshuva, and they don't want to listen, and that's to their loss. Point is that if you don't overthink it, you simply listen to the instructions of what we do, you'll have a lot more fruits. From your labor. Everybody can work, everybody could exert effort, but not everybody could yield the same fruit. So my suggestion is that the person be very, very precise about their method of what they're going to do and not overthink, as far as every case, just like be precise as far as this is the general method for everybody. I'm going to send everybody this lecture. I'm going to send everybody this USB or this CD. Everybody. And that's generally what works. Not just in Q, but in anything. Next question. Is it okay to read your horoscope for fun? No, not really. Just because, number one, it's bitul Torah. It's a waste of time you could be using for learning Torah. Number two, sometimes there are people behind it that are using different types of witchcraft. Most of the time it's complete mumbo-jumbo nonsense that's made up by a computer, but sometimes there is people that are using different types of witchcraft that you don't want to be connected to. And four, it could also be confusing. Why? Because sometimes it's right, meaning that sometimes their general advice, their general statement actually applies to your life, And people get confused thinking that, oh, maybe they do know something. And the next thing you know, you start reading it every week avidly instead of doing something much more productive. So no, reading horoscopes is a complete waste of time. Michael is asking, was wondering if our kids can play with glow sticks on Shabbat. These are filled with chemicals. You crack the stick, chemicals combine inside them. No, you cannot do that. Generally speaking, it's considered muktzeh. Now, of course, can you find somebody that will tell you that it's okay? Sure. But generally speaking, it's not the ideal thing to do on Shabbat, because if not for anything, but simply for the fact that it's marit ayin, which is it looks like it's electricity, and that's enough of a reason for it to be not part of the Shabbat environment that you're supposed to have. I know it's not electricity. I was a kid once too. But nonetheless, it's definitely not part of the Shabbat environment. Give them Legos, better. I know it's not the same toy, and the kids are saying, "Oh, Abba, it's not the same thing." Just say, "Rabbi said Legos are better. I'm buying you Legos." Buy them something else, not glow sticks, not glow sticks. Next question. Charlie's asking, will only Jews be resurrected when the Mashiach comes? Listen, to my knowledge, you're going to have the prophet says you're going to have 2/3 of the world are going to be destroyed. The last third of the world is going to be tested, meaning that some of them will survive, some will be destroyed. And then whoever remains, those are the people that are going to merit to see the Mashiach. And then some say 40 years later there's going to be the resurrection of the dead, which to my knowledge is the resurrection of the righteous Jews that are dead, not the righteous among all of the nations, but I actually have to double check that. I don't believe that it's righteous among everybody. I believe it's only righteous among the Jewish people, because the non-Jews would already they're going to be alive, or they're already going to be in their section of heaven anyway. So there's not going to be a purpose for them to be resurrected. But if I find out anything otherwise, I'll correct myself next week. BeEzrat HaShem. I don't think so, but if it's if I see anything else, I'll tell you. Michael is asking, if a husband and a wife are having a meal together, the man doesn't eat amotzi, but the wife does. Who reads the Birkat HaMazon? Well, if the husband is not eating motzi, he's not allowed to read Birkat HaMazon, because it will be b'chal levatala. It will be saying Hashem's name in vain. The wife has to read the Birkat HaMazon for herself. Robert, why does the Torah warn an accidental killer not to leave the shelter city if revenge is prohibited in other parts of the Torah? Does the family of the deceased have the permission to take revenge? That's exactly it, Robert. That's exactly it. The Torah says that if somebody accidentally kills somebody else, he has to run to the shelter city. Why? Because not only is the family likely to kill him as a revenge, as an emotional revenge, but you cannot try them for killing that person. You can't blame them for killing that person. In essence, they have permission to kill the person. They have the permission to kill the person. Why? Because he killed somebody else. So yeah, technically they do have permission. It's obviously the reason why the Torah says to go to these sheltered cities is to give this person a chance to survive, but there is a chance for him to die, and the person that kills him will not suffer any harm. David is asking, when the yard site is in the middle of the week, when exactly does the Sephardi start and end the Kaddish? And does he have to go up to the Torah on Saturday before the yard site? No, yard site can be celebrated technically at any time. Many people like to do the yahrzeit, on Shabbat because there's more people. There's the Aliyah Torah, but you can do it on any given day. There's no specific day of the week that you have to do it. You say Kaddish. Generally, the Kaddish is the last Kaddish before Aleinu Leshabech. That's where all the people that lost a parent, that's when they say Kaddish. But as far as if you want to celebrate the yahrzeit on a specific day, whether it's Shabbat or Tuesday or whatever day, you can. Many times people arrange for there to be a big Torah event, a big lecture in honor of their dead loved one, and the day that the speaker can arrive, it cannot, is not always the day that person died. What do you cancel it? No, you wait for him to come and you celebrate the yahrzeit on that day. Celebrate that. It's a customary thing to do. It's a nice thing to do, but nonetheless, it's not a specific halacha that you have to do it on a specific day or anything like that. Jack is asking, I saw you posted a picture of Asher Meza with no yarmulke with bikers. What a disgrace. Mamash. He makes the other heretics seem like baby koferes compared to this mamzel. Listen, Asher is unfortunately so arrogant, he doesn't see the chovah be'atzmo. The Gemara Masechet Shabbat says that a person doesn't see his own miracles, a person doesn't see his own obligations. But unfortunately, in this particular case, he's so arrogant, even if you show him his own deficiencies, even if you show him his own mistakes, he looks at you dumbfounded. He doesn't understand. And the amount of times that he makes mistakes in his videos and things is literally endless. But yet, all of his viewers are so ignorant that they don't know any different. If he says the Rambam said something, he says it with such a confidence that people make it seem as if Moses said it, Lavdim. But in reality, he has said a lot of things that I've heard myself that are outright mistakes. Like he said, Rambam doesn't say that wasting seed is murder. In fact, Rambam himself writes it specifically that wasting seed is murder. He specifically says it. He actually uses those words, it's murder. But he said, no, wasting seed is not murder. And he says all types of stupid things that are just literally outright mistakes. But his listeners, most of them are Mechalei Shabbat if they're Jews. And if they're not Jews, they're literally Christians, missionaries sometimes, all types of people that are confused even more than he is. But he doesn't understand what it means to be a Jew. He has no concept. It's not just because he was born a non-Jew. It's that he doesn't have any rabbi that he learned from. He has no real leader that he listens to. He has nothing. His idol is a heretic, Dennis Prager. Like, he doesn't have any real concept of what Judaism really is. He has no concept of what Chilul Hashem is, what a Jew is supposed to look like. Not necessarily because it's a Torah commandment to wear a beard and to put a yarmulke, but rather because that's the look of a Jew, and even more so, to not look like a non-Jew. Needless to say, to not look like a Nazi, which is really what he looks like in that picture. He looks like a skinhead Nazi. That's what he looks like. But he'll do that because he loves the attention. He loves the attention. That's why he puts those pictures up, and he does things that he knows are going to irritate people that are zealous for Hashem, or people that are simply, more accustomed to traditional Judaism, and he likes to irritate. He's like a mosquito in both Torah knowledge as well as actual ethics and everything else. He's just a person that loves attention. And it's a sociopath. He's a very sick person, and I feel bad. I hope that he does tshuva one day. I mean, he's very delusional, the poor guy, and I don't even know if it's like worth it to mention him anymore, because I honestly think at this point that he may be considered a shoteh. He may be considered a shoteh. Like, when I posted the picture, I didn't find the picture. I didn't send any photographer to go find this embarrassing picture. He posted the picture himself, and I reposted it because I found it so absurd that he doesn't see anything wrong with this picture, and he posts it proudly, calling himself rabbi, looking 100% like an idol-worshipping Nazi, and he doesn't think there's anything wrong with it because supposedly he's hanging out with a bunch of Jewish bikers. I don't know what kind of Jewish bikers there are, but nonetheless, let's say there are. And he's hanging out with them, looking like a Nazi. So I don't know, maybe they're playing, Nazi and victim. Like, I don't know, they're chasing each other. Like the guys with the kippah are, pretending that he's gonna kill them. I don't know what the whole point is. But nonetheless, he's riding a bike and he thinks it's cool. He thinks it's like hip. He thinks it's with the motor or something. He doesn't realize anything wrong with it. So I repost this thing. A few people rebuked me saying, "Oh, why are you reposting embarrassing pictures?" He's posting it himself. It's him. He did it. I just reposted it, showing that he doesn't realize there's anything wrong with it. It's the most bizarre thing in the world. Not only that, he makes a comment on my post saying, "Thanks for posting it." Like he's even more proud of it. Like he doesn't see there's anything wrong with it. And at that point, I realized I think he's a shoteh. I think he's like a crazy person. Like a drunkard. Like, he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand there's something wrong with everything that he does, everything that he says. And I don't even know. I don't even know what to say anymore. It's a strange situation. Honestly, I didn't plan on mentioning his name anymore until I just read the question and we mentioned his name. I don't even know if I want to mention his name anymore. I think he's just I don't know. I think it's like you have to cry over a person like this. Like he has Down syndrome or something. Like somebody that's autistic, someone that has like some type of deformity. Like I think that's where he's at. I think that's where he's at. He's just I mean, there's other things I'm not telling you guys. That perhaps I'm going to release it at some point. I have to get pick the right timing and get the permission. Yes, I asked for permission for everything, guys. My rabbis give me permission for everything. I'm a good little boy. As scary as I may sound and make people think I am, everything I get permission from. Why? I know that in order to the people that are smart are not usually the ones that are the smartest. The people that are successful are not usually the ones that are smartest. You know who they are? The smartest guy in the room, the most successful guy in the room, you know who he is? He's the guy who knows that he's not the smartest guy in the room, and in fact knows who is the smartest guy, knows who to go to. So that's in essence the secret for anyone that wants to live a good life in both in Judaism and in everything else. Never think that you're the smartest. Always go to the people that are better than you, experts, people that are more knowledgeable, people that have more expertise and so on. So I know that I know a certain amount, but surely my rabbi knows more, and his rabbi knows more, and Chazal knows more, and so on. So that's why we always go to the source. Why? We don't want to be superheroes. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. Surely we'd love to have new insights be gifted to us and new things to discuss, but we don't want to reinvent the wheel if it's already there. And that's the mistake that people like Meza make. Like, he thinks that you're supposed to reinvent the wheel. He thinks you need to reinvent the wheel. Instead of going to something that doesn't exist, he goes to what exists, what's already accepted, and he tries to reinvent it. He's trying to change the entire Jewish world, into his new, religion or whatever he calls his cult. And in fact, he calls everybody else a cult, everybody else a different religion, which we are a different religion to him. It's just that he's confused of who's right here. And it's unfortunate. It's a very, very unfortunate situation. Mamash haram. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. If he wasn't such a bad guy, I would cry over him. But he's not but I'm just not really sure if he's outright evil or he's just crazy. Like I'm having a little bit of a dilemma here. It's to be honest with you guys, I'm just having a dilemma. I'm not sure if he's evil or he's crazy. I'm leaning more towards the crazy side. Even though some of the things he does are evil, I'm leaning more towards the crazy side. I think he's like one of those people that just like has, shows off a huge amount of confidence, but in reality is the most self-conscious person on planet Earth, needs and yearns attention, needs friends, needs recognition, needs to be part of groups. Like one of those people that joins the team even if he doesn't know how to play, just because he wants to pretend like he's part of the team and he has a jersey. He's like one of those people. He's like a misken, and like misken in Hebrew we call him misken, like a poor person. But he exudes confidence, which is really the opposite of what he has. The opposite. It's a very sad story, to be honest with you. It's getting sadder as I see how he's deteriorating tragically, like worse and worse by the day. Like he doesn't even understand that what he's doing is wrong. He has no concept of it. Okay, let's move on to another thing. I think HaShem Yishmor v'yatzil. Some things I may agree with, but many I don't, because many things are very personal and spiritual, and within oneself you can't speak for others. You got to speak for I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Why does the halacha in Yilkut Yosef say that to do tikkun chatzot instead of slichot when that's not the minhag of the world? I saw the halacha to even do tikkun chatzot is only for high-level people who can make themselves cry. So the reason why is because the custom that is more that you do more often take precedent over the customs that are random, that are different parts of the year. So because if a person does tikkun chatzot every day, it's not worth it for him to break that tradition that he has the whole year in order to do slichot that he only does for part of the year. And that's with anything that's customary. The thing that you do all the time is always priority. If a woman is starting to dress modestly, Baruch Hashem, but still all over the internet are pictures of her in her old attire, does she make a sin every time a man sees those photos, even if it's out of her control to remove the photos? And she greatly regrets how she dressed. Is this different for Jews and non-Jews? Yes, she is, because she publicized the videos or publicized the photos. Every time somebody sins because of her, she has a very serious problem. So she has to exert every effort possible to get those pictures and videos removed, even if it means to spend every dollar that she has. She has to remove all of those pictures and all of those videos from the internet, do whatever she can to remove them from any place that has them. If she truly does 100% of what she can, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will surely help her succeed and judge her favorably. But if she says, I tried, I sent my friend an email to remove all of the pictures that I had, and she didn't respond, so, it's not in my hands anymore. No, that's not enough. It's not enough. Everybody knows what their real effort is, and everybody knows what their fake effort is. So if she really does try her best, Kadosh Baruch Hu will provide both mercy and success. Please explain what people mean when they say that there are 70 different faces, interpretations to the Torah. Okay, I mentioned this. I believe there's a couple of lectures that I've mentioned this, and I think there's even a clip that we took to explain the 70 faces of the Torah. So there are the written Torah that is older than the Jewish people. The written Torah, what Gemara says, was written 974 generations before the world even existed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took black fire as his ink and wrote the Torah on white fire. Now that Torah is endless. endless, truly endless, meaning that in the beginning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put everything in it. It was the blueprint to the world. So he saw that this Torah has the rules for, let's say, kosher animals, so therefore he created kosher animals and non-kosher animals. He saw that this Torah has kosher fish, so he created kosher fish and not kosher fish. He said that, in the Torah has rules of, let's say, the family purity, so he made male and the female has the time of the month, and so on and so forth. So he looked at the Torah and he created the world. The world is the creation that came from the blueprint, which is the Torah. So this Torah has everything in it: the past, the present, the future. This shiur, this conversation, the personal conversation you're going to have with somebody in 5 minutes from now, the conversation you had 20 years ago, everything and anything that exists is in the Torah if you know how to find it. Now, this Torah was given to Am Yisrael, but it's not literal, meaning you're not going to go into the Torah and open a certain parasha and see the name Yaron Reuven gave a shiur on such and such date. You're not going to see that. You have to know how to find these things. So there are different rules that to find something in the Torah. Different rules that the sages taught us, that they got on Mount Sinai from Moses, of how to interpret the Torah, how to find different secrets, how to establish that something is truly a law versus something is not a law. Which verses apply to what? So there are different rules that the Gemara teaches us of how to interpret the written Torah and know what's what. So now there are also different rules of how to interpret the verses of what really transpired, meaning that all of these midrashim and Haggadot and stories that happened that you don't see in the written Torah, they're not just out of thin air. They're taught from the written Torah by the sages using specific rules where they say, oh, because this sentence started with this letter, when it doesn't usually start with this letter, it means such and such. Because this word is spelled in a unique way, it means such and such. Everywhere else, it's spelled with 5 letters. Here, it's spelled with 4 letters. It means the same thing, but it's nonetheless there's a different reason of why it's spelled that way, or why it has a certain nikud. It's like, for example, the foolishness of English, where they spell the word night with a K and without a K. In reality, you can say, yeah, the one with the K is the knight that fights, and the one without the K is the knight like it's night. Yeah, you can say that, but in reality, it's an excuse. It doesn't really mean that way. The real thing is it's stupidity. You could use the word knight for both reasons, as you have other words in the English language and other languages that mean multiple things. In the Hebrew language, though, in the Sfat HaKodesh, not the Hebrew language of modern-day Israel, but Hebrew language of the biblical language, there is not such a thing. Meaning, every word has a single meaning. There are certain things that mean similar things, but it's not the one word is used for 3 different things. But you can spell the same word different ways in order to establish different rules or different things, different teachings. There are also certain stories that the sages teach us that they learn from the way that the Torah is written. That the order of the letters, the order of the sentence, the extra use of words, the lack of use of words, and many other things. So the point being is that there are 70 different ways, if you will, 70 different faces to interpret the Torah. But in essence, it's not 70 different things that contradict each other. It's 70 different facets of the same diamond. So, in essence, if you have, let's say, a diamond, and that diamond has different facets. In order for that diamond to really be shiny, it has to have, a certain number of facets, and certain they have to have a certain type of direction and so on. The diamond dealers know exactly what I'm talking about. So now, the shinier the diamond is, that means that the diamond cutter cut it in a unique way. That's why you have a company, I don't know if they still exist, but there's a company, I think, called Blue Nile or something like that. There were a certain company that created a new way of cutting a diamond that made it look shinier. Even though their stone was the same exact stone, color, shape as another stone, their diamond looked shinier because they knew how to cut it in a different way. I'm sure this is already everywhere by now, but initially they did something. So, but the point being is that if you have somebody looking at this shiny diamond from this direction or from a different direction, you're not going to say that they're both looking at different diamonds. They're both looking at the same exact diamond, but they're looking at different parts of it. So when it's the say there's 70 faces to the Torah, is that all 70 faces are still staring at the same truth. Now, unlike a diamond where that truth is, that diamond has a single point that they're all pointing on, sometimes the Torah has multiple truths. It's not always a single truth. There's a single God, there's a single Torah, there's a single general truth, but certain things have multiple truths. Why multiple truths? Because there's a truth of this world and there's a truth of the upper world, where there is certain laws that are applicable to this world, Bet Hillel, and there are certain laws that are true and should be applicable for this world, but we can't survive with those rules, and therefore they're only applicable in the next world, which is Shammai. So there are 70 different faces, 70 different facets, 70 different interpretations, all looking at that overall same Torah. But it's not, the opposite of each other all the time. It's things that are, within the guidelines, within the rule book, if you will, of how to interpret the Torah. You can't just decide that this is going to mean whatever you want it because you decided this is one of the 70 faces. That's what a lot of foolish people think. They think that, if there are 70 faces in the Torah, so I can decide that this word means that and this sentence means that. No, Habibi, it doesn't work that way. You have to use those rules in order for that interpretation to be valid. Meaning you can't just interpret things any way you feel like it and just say, okay, this is one of the 70 faces. No. You have to, that interpretation has to meet all of the guidelines. All of the different guidelines in order to be accepted as an actual valid interpretation. Or else you could just simply make a whole mishmash out of the entire Torah, and you could pretty much find whatever you want in the Torah. You could turn all of the idols into the God, and you can turn the chosen people into the enemy. You can do whatever you want if the interpretation doesn't have a certain rules. So those rules we got at Mount Sinai. That's part of the oral Torah, and they're discussed in the Talmud as one of the many things that is discussed in it. But in general, it's any interpretation. It has to have has to meet the guidelines, has to meet the rules for that interpretation. And one rule of thumb that I've learned is that generally speaking, there's no question that you're gonna ask, or I'm gonna ask, or really almost anybody in his generation is gonna ask that nobody else in the past has asked. Everything was discussed by the sages of the past. Everything. Every question you come up with, every single idea you come up with, somebody else has already discussed it. Somebody else has already addressed it and figured out whether it's true or not, whether it's valid or not. Which means that one of the main things that a person needs to do if they're truly looking for the truth is to find a friend. limtzol chaver. So meaning find a friend, find a sage that says what you said, says what you believe. If you can't find anybody that says what you said, either it's simply not true, and which is the most common, or you didn't look hard enough. Now you say, well, what about chidushim? What about new insights? The new insights are not new from nothing. The new insights have friends that are perhaps not complete. They're part of it. That new insight that I'm going to bring you is not new from nothing. It has a part of the Rambam, a part of the Ramban, a part of Rabbi Akiva, a part of this. I took a bunch of different diamonds and I added one specific unique idea to it, or simply just took their ideas and combined them in a fashion that nobody else made. Nobody else had, but they're all valid ideas that were accepted. That could be a new insight. To create something out of nothing, nobody does that. And that's actually one of the mistakes people that are anti-Torah and anti-mysticism and anti-truth often think about the Zohar. And where they think, oh, the Zohar is the mystical teachings of Judaism. It's they say all types of foolish things about it, as if the Zohar was a new thing. In reality, mysticism is found in all parts of the Torah, from the 5 books of Moses to all over the Tanakh, to the Gemara, to even Poskim, and even more so, anyone that actually read the Zohar knows that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai didn't come up with completely new insights out of nothing. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai used the Kabbalistic works and words of the sages from his time and before his time, where there's at least 60 Kabbalistic books that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai quotes that preceded the Zohar, meaning he's quoting them in the Zohar, means that they existed before him. And he's quoting them in the Zohar. So a lot of these books that people like to either make fun of, or they're clueless about them, or anything else, some of these books are mentioned and they actually preceded the Zohar. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is simply quoting them. He's not inventing something out of new. But people that are too busy making fun generally don't have time to learn. And that's usually what happened. But the point is that if a person studies enough Torah, he's going to find a friend for all of his new insights. And the best that he can do is usually combine all of the different insights that he found and compile them together and make a yalkut, make a connection between the points, the beautiful points the different sages and verses said, in order to make their new insight, which is in essence usually a new way of looking at the same thing. It's instead of looking at the diamond from the right side or the left side, he's looking at it from the top or the bottom. So in essence, it's the same diamond, but he's looking at it from a different direction. Okay, we're almost done. Louis is asking, how do I properly dispose of a Christian Bible? It has the Old Testament, which is supposed to be the 5 books of Moses. Burn, bury, just throw it in the garbage. I have a lecture online from about 5-6 years ago, which I think it's titled, Are You Allowed to Learn Torah from a Christian Missionary? In India, I talk about different rules in regards to what happens if a Christian writes not a Bible that has the 5 books of Moses, but even more so, writes a Torah scroll. Let's say a Christian idol worshiper, he's or even a non-Jew that serves God. Let's just say good guy, not an idol worshiper. Good guy writes a Torah scroll, it's automatically not kosher. A Mechalel Shabbat Jew, natural born Jew, but he desecrates Shabbat, writes a Torah scroll, not kosher, can never use it. In fact, Rav Yashiv Alav Shalom said that most of the Sifrei Torah in the communities around the world are not kosher according to his psak. Most of the Sifrei Torah, he says, in all communities around the world are not kosher. Why? He says because what the custom has become is that usually the Sofer is writing the Sefer Torah in Eretz Yisrael, but because he wants to travel with the Sefer Torah by himself, he doesn't want to bring 10 people with him, he doesn't complete the Sefer Torah. So it's usually incomplete. Usually it's missing a few letters or even a few verses sometimes. And so that way he can put it in a suitcase or a duffel bag and take it with him by himself and not desecrate the Torah. But now what happens is they go to the community, and usually most communities have this event where they have Achnasat Torah, and people donate in order to write a letter in a Torah. People donate all types of money, and they say, oh yeah, I want to donate $100, $500, $1,000, and they give them the kavod of writing one of the letters of the Torah along with the scribe. Rabbi Yashiv says that Torah scroll that has one of these people write in the Torah, if that person's a Mechalel Shabbat, which unfortunately is very common, that entire Torah scroll is not kosher. The entire Torah, even if it's one letter. Needless to say, if it has a bunch of letters, because a bunch of people use this opportunity to so-called make the mitzvah of writing a Sefer Torah, which is really doubtful if it's even a mitzvah. But nonetheless, most of the people that usually like to donate to this stuff are people that don't keep mitzvot. And they end up going up to the sofer, the scribe, and they take his hand with their hand and they write the letter. Rabbi Yashiv Paskins, that Sefer Torah is not kosher. And many times it's a bunch of people that go up and they write, and it's a bunch of Mechalel Shabbat. So Rabbi Yashiv says, and for those rabbis that say, no, the sofer then wrote over it, meaning the Mechalel Shabbat wrote the first round, first batch of ink, but the sofer wrote on top of it. Rabbi Yashiv says it's still not a kosher Sefer Torah. You have to completely remove everything that Mechalel Shabbat did and rewrite that whole thing in order for you to fix that Sefer Torah. So, I mean, you're talking about one of the biggest rabbis that lived in the last 100 years, if not a few hundred years, has a psak, which I honestly don't know what the psak is of other sages. I haven't read extensively into this particular thing, but I know what he said. Literally, it's 100% true what he says. Meaning, most of the Sifrei Torah in Batei Knesset in the world, if they're not relying on some leniency that I don't know about, most of the Sifrei Torah are not kosher. Most of the Sifrei Torah are not kosher. And that's from Jews. That's from Jews that are not keeping Shabbat. Not keeping Shabbat. Therefore, the entire Torah scroll, not Torah book, textbook, entire Torah scroll is not kosher because of that. So, now, going back to your question, if a Christian writes a Torah scroll, the Rambam writes it's a mitzvah to burn it. It's a mitzvah to destroy it. You don't have to bury it. You don't have to show it any respect. Why? Because that Christian that wrote that Torah scroll wrote it in the name of an idol. He didn't write it in the name of God. He wrote it in the name of his Yoshke. So it's not, even though it's Hebrew words and Hebrew letters, it's forbidden to read that thing. And in fact, it's actually a mitzvah to destroy it. So as far as disposing a Christian Bible, you can throw it in the garbage, or better yet, you can put Clorox on it so nobody else uses it. Or if you want to be a hero like some of the other students that I have, you could even burn it. But I don't recommend necessarily making a video out of it because it makes a lot of people upset and it's unnecessary. But nonetheless, there are some people that do that. They get really upset when they discover that the Christian Bible is full of idolatry. And they do make videos of themselves burning those books, and it's not a sin to do that. I could definitely tell you that it's not a sin to do that, but it can create animosity. It can even create anti-Semitism. The point being is, it's full of idolatry. Get rid of it. The sooner, the better. That's the point. Okay. Rabotai, I'm tired. I have another question that I have another shiur that I have to get to. Let me try to see if I can come up with more questions. It's still kind of. All right, Misha is asking, during Shemitah year, all loans are forgiven except the loans that were done with collateral. Why would someone give collateral? If we are supposed to give loans to any Jew who needs it without taking collateral, are loans automatically forgiven? No. First off, all loans are not forgiven because there's a pruzbul. The sages instituted a pruzbul because they saw that since people didn't have to return the loans, a lot of the lenders simply would not lend the money anymore. So they formed a pruzbul, which in essence means that the loan is still valid even without a collateral. Even without a collateral. And that's, needless to say, is applicable still today. All the loans are still 100% valid. Let's see, I think that's one question. Are animals allowed to be euthanized since we are not to cause animals any undue stress, meaning an elderly dog that's in pain? Okay, so in regards to animals, you're not allowed to neuter animals. That's called tsar ba'al chaim. That's causes the animal unnecessary pain. But you are allowed to euthanize an animal if it is suffering. You are allowed to euthanize it if it's suffering. You should ask and double check the doctor, obviously, that it's truly that this is not or the veterinarian, this is not a recoverable thing and the animal is suffering, but you are allowed to euthanize an animal if it's suffering, yes. It's actually a show of mercy. It's because you have to be merciful to the animal, you're allowed to euthanize it. But to euthanize animals just because you don't want it anymore or something like that, that's forbidden. That's forbidden. Okay, Jose is asking, under halachic rule by the Torah, are all journalists considered outright liars? I wouldn't necessarily say they're all considered outright liars, but they're all considered ba'alei lashon hara. They're all considered sinners because everything that they do for a living is forbidden by the Torah. It's lashon hara. Or it's rechilut. Either they're coming up with, they're disclosing information that the person doesn't want people to know, and that's lashon hara, or they're making up information, or they're simply spreading information that's untrue, which is rechilut. So in essence, they're all wicked because everything, their entire profession is depends on falsehood and on sins. So they're all wicked. All journalists are wicked. There's no such thing as a righteous journalist if they're working for like a major news network or a newspaper or something like that. Now, are there private journalists that are more righteous and they and say the truth? Yes, they do exist. And some of them even work for major companies, but the only time that they're able to do that is if they have complete autonomy to what they write, meaning no one can tell them what to do. There's actually a journalist named Tzvi Echeskeli, who's a famous journalist. He's also a famous Baal Tshuva. He's a expert in Middle East issues and especially terrorism and the world of the Arabs. He actually was reporting there for years, and then he also had a show where he was a undercover Muslim, pretending to be a Muslim sheikh, and he went and infiltrated the Muslim world and showed how terrorism in the Muslim world is pretty much standard, and it's everywhere. It's not just like in the in Sudan or something, or in Iraq or Afghanistan. It's in America. He came to America. It's in Jewish neighborhoods. You have sometimes these mosques. You have it there. It's in America. It's in the UK. It's all over Europe. It's all over the world. And it's pretty much standard teaching in Muslim mosques is anti-Semitic. Are all of them like that? No, but unfortunately, a very, very large part of them, and they're very, very well funded and very vicious. So the point is that Tzvi Echeskeli, he is an expert in this field of terrorism, Middle East, Arabs, all that stuff. And he reports in the news. He reports in the news different specific things, but he has full autonomy. And generally speaking, he focuses more on the things of the non-Jews, and there's no din of lashon hara as far as non-Jewish world. But and there are some, people that are better than others, but generally speaking, it's almost impossible to be a righteous journalist, because part of journalism is that everybody relies on is to get the scoop, to get attention, to get the world to notice you, and that means that you're constantly playing with a gray area, that of whether to report something or not report something, because it'll get you more ratings. So you're biased for the wrong reason. If if you guys are going to report what's happening in a kollel, nothing's happening. What's happening today in a kollel and in Bet Shemesh? Everybody woke up really early. Everybody except one guy showed up on time. They all studied, they prayed, and they ended. The journalism's career is over. So what do they usually do? They go and they look for stories, they look for things, and many times those things are forbidden, either because it's lashon hara, or it's because it's false. It's rechilut. So to be a righteous journalist, if not impossible, extraordinarily difficult, and to be successful at that, you have to be very, very learned. Very, very learned. Does it exist? I know of something that gets close to it. There's one guy that's a frum Jew. I believe he's based out of America, but most of the stuff that he reports is based in Israel. And he reports a lot of things. But I know of at least, the reason why I say he's a very learned person, but the reason why I say that's close and not yes, because I know of at least one story that he reported where he literally butchered a person by re-reporting something that was completely false. Butchered him. The guy is an avrech, tzaddik. Both of his parents were murdered, and he jumped on the bandwagon when everybody blamed this avrech, this tzaddik, who never picked up a metal knife in his life. They blamed him for murdering his parents, HaShem yishmor v'yatzil. This guy is tzaddik. And they blamed him, and this guy jumped, reported this also, HaShem yishmor v'yatzil, mamash murdering the guy. The guy is still to this day suffering trauma from the reporting they did against him. So, that guy has to do serious tshuva for that. Now, is that the only story that he ever screwed up in? I highly doubt it, because you have to report every day. As a journalist, you have to report every day. Pretty much, to do such a thing, you have to, have superhuman powers to verify that everything is allowed and it's kosher and it's true and it's this. So I think it's safe to say that the vast majority of journalists are in very, very serious trouble, and they have a villa in Gehenom reserved for them. But there is a possibility that some may escape by the skin of their teeth, escape Gehenom, perhaps, but hard to. Okay, that was a good question. Thank you very much for the question. I appreciate it. Kadosh Baruch Hu bless each and every single one of you. Chaim arukim, shlemim, mileim Torah, mitzvot, gemilut chasadim. If you fell with any type of sin, get up. How do you get up? Say, Chatanu, Avinu, Pashanu. Hashem, I'm sorry, I made a sin. Forgive me, take me back, and start doing mitzvot as soon as possible. The first mitzvah that you can do it. Whatever you can do it. One mitzvah leads to another. One mitzvah leads to another. And may all of us start doing mitzvot and get other people to do mitzvot and never stop. And anytime we fall, we get up again and do another mitzvah, another mitzvah, another mitzvah. And BeEzrat HaShem, get the whole world around us to do mitzvot. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.
את הרבנים, הרב ירון ראובן, הרב אפרים כחלון, ראשי ארגון בעזרת השם, שהלכו בפי עליון, שעלו מעלה מעלה, יהיה להם ברכה והצלחה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא בישועות ליבם לטובה ולברכה, שבכל אשר יפנו ישכילו ויצליחו, יזכו עוד לעשות כאלה וכאלה, הודיעו תורה לאדירה, אמן ואמן.